This is the weirdest keyboard I've ever tried, but it's also insanely cool. Like, I'm in.
But apparently, its weird looks serve an incredibly important purpose. And weirdly enough, it's the most customizable keyboard I've ever tried.
And instead of just dunking on it and calling it dumb like Linus Tech Tips basically did, instead, I had the creator fly out to my house.
And obviously that raised a couple questions, like how do I even type on this thing? Why are these things adjustable?
And who would ever use this thing?
Now I'll get to all of that in just a second, but I also wanted to challenge myself. So I've set an incredibly lofty goal of typing 10 words per minute on this thing.
And I know what you're thinking, 10 words per minute, that's absurd, that's so low. That means you're not even trying.
But that's spending a short period of time every day for a week, and I'll quickly realize that even that's in over my head.
But that is probably the first milestone where I feel like it's starting to maybe click. Also, this video is sponsored by Shopify, and we'll talk about that more later.
Now, before I started my own challenge, I had one day with Morgan, the creator of the Svalboard, to absorb as much information as I could. And the main thing I want to figure out right now is, number one, why would he make this? And number two, why would he make this?
Hi, this is Svalboard. It's a keyboard kind of from another planet. It does look a little crazy. This is a modern evolution of the data hand, a keyboard that saved my career and a few thousand other people's.
Now, if you didn't hear it right there, Morgan mentioned the data hand. This is a really old keyboard that looks really crazy, and it was the direct inspiration for the Svalboard and will be coming up a lot. It's also the keyboard that Linus Tech Tips looked at a few years ago, and they focused a lot on typing fast on it, which I will obviously not be doing. I can't type fast on it.
This looks like something out of an anime.
That is fair. I get a lot of Ghost in the Shell comments on it.
So I'm really excited to learn how to use this thing, but I'm also really scared. Is it okay to be scared?
It is okay to be scared. You're gonna have to relearn a few things, but overall, the process is a little bit less crazy than it looks.
Yeah, we'll be putting that to the test later.
And how much does this keyboard cost?
In this configuration, it's $1050.
And not $10.
Correct, $1,050. The base configuration without pointing devices is $750.
Now, holy bazinga, that is very expensive, but it does make sense considering right now every single unit is assembled by hand in the US, and it's very customizable, which we'll talk about more later.
And what is the main purpose of this thing?
Svalboard is an evolution of the data hand keyboard, which was designed to eliminate pain from repetitive stress injuries. It serves to reduce the motion and effort of all of the fingers and the hands and relieve strain up in the shoulders and neck by reducing forces in the keys, reducing distances to the keys, and providing a totally custom anatomical fit.
Now, I'm not an ergonomics expert. However, I did hire one for a YouTube video, which you can check out in the top right. And while ergonomics is incredibly personal, there did seem to be some actual science behind the data hand. So provided somebody needs this to help treat their potential injuries or future injuries, then I could see it having some benefits. But that got me thinking, what about other ergonomic keyboards? And keep in mind, Morgan is of course biased here.
So what is the main difference of using this over something like just a typical ergo board?
The premise of the data hand architecture is low force. With these, because all of the force is up front and it falls away with this tactile breakaway, you can actually pretty much rest your fingers on 20-gram keys without any false activations.
However, we will be putting that false activations bit to the test because
How long does it take someone to get used to typing on one of these?
If you're coming from a regular flat QWERTY keyboard, it's probably 3 to 4 weeks to go back to work with it, practicing gently, 15 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, and slowly ramping up. If you come from a split keyboard already, like the Defy or any of these other split ergos you see that have thumb clusters already, that's a big advantage, and I've had people go back to work in a week. It's a few-week commitment for sure, but it pays dividends in pretty much immediately providing relief from the overuse hammering stuff that comes from using heavy key switches.
Now, obviously, when I heard the news that it takes literal weeks to learn this thing and get back to work, I was like, God, shoot, that's gonna mess up my challenge. But I still think 10 words per minute is a very reasonable goal for just a week.
Now, I think the coolest thing about the Svalboard is how easily accessible it is despite being made by one guy. Like, you can literally just go online and buy it because of our sponsor, Shopify. Shopify empowers anyone from a Hipyo that wants to sell a howdy hey hat to someone that wants to make their own art brand. It reduces the complexity of making your own website because I did it in just a couple hours and you can too. But the coolest part is the story from my friend Pikarar, who I made these awesome desk mats with. She ported her website super easily and now sells her amazing art supplies around the world in every market. I'll let her speak for it real quick.
What did you like most about switching to Shopify?
I like Shopify because it makes keeping inventory really easy. So I have a lot of different locations, for example, but even though I have different locations, it's all organized in one place. I also like that the design is really easy to use. So whether you know coding or you don't know coding, you can add images to your website and text and just lay out your page the way that you would like to.
Amazing.
Now, if you're like me and always wanted to make an online store but didn't know where to start, then Shopify makes it super easy, and you can go to shopify.com/hypyotech and start your free trial.
There's also some of my favorite features, like Shopify Collective, which lets you sell products from other Shopify stores on your store, like Kinetic Labs. Shopify Collabs, which lets you get commissions with great brands.
And my personal favorite is Shopify Magic, which I know AI tools, but it lets you remove the background of an image without needing Photoshop or any complex tools.
So let's say you just got one of these things. This involved like sending you finger measurements.
I've designed this so that it takes different key widths, so you can bring the keys closer to your fingertips if you want.
Where in the world do I start?
You start by fitting the size of your hand with the palm, the lengths of your fingers with the sliding mechanisms here.
What's actually crazy about this board, though, is that before you type on it, you have to set it up to your individual hands. Oh, and also I had a question for Morgan.
I would love to see how fast you could type on it, like being experienced.
Yeah, sure, I'm happy to show that. The typical use case for this is at a desk that you've set up for yourself with all your ergo gear, your arms and keyboard tray and all of that.
Wait, did you say arms?
Yeah. A lot of people are mounting these on their desks. Instead of sitting on the desk, a lot of people use them either on a keyboard tray under the desk or on camera mounting arms.
So you're saying people put their keyboard on these things?
That's right.
As Morgan mentioned, your desk setup is actually super important for this thing. So we tried mounting it to those little poles on my desk, and unfortunately, it just didn't quite work for me. My thick thighs are too thick. But that did give me flashbacks to Raimi absolutely roasting me sitting like a goblin. But now it was time to dial in the keyboard to my specific hands. And what's actually really insane about this thing is that every little piece moves. This is incredibly daunting at first and kind of had me wondering, like, how do people even get this set up without having the creator of it in your own room?
If somebody's at home, like how do they figure out what fits them the best?
It's a process of iteration. There's a big community on the Discord, lots of people who've gone through their own fits and who have wildly different anatomy, who can give perspective.
So like, this is incredibly personal. In fact, I saw that you even sell kits where like people can print their own.
That's right. For the most part, the folks building the self-print kit are doing crazy colors, they're doing weird customizations, and people also will, mess with the key shapes or actually heat bend the keys to curve them around their fingers in just the way they want. So there's a lot you can do there.
So then does this look like a decent fit or like?
Yeah, this is a good starting point. For finger width, we're pretty good. I'd actually probably swap these keys here.
Wait, you just pulled out these switches?
That's right. So all the switches are just actually keys with magnets in them.
Oh my gosh.
So they just drop in, but there's a little retention feature so that when they're pressed, they don't go flying.
As a keyboard enthusiast that likes collecting different colored keycaps and stuff like that, this was instantly really cool to me because you could just print out different parts to every bit of this keyboard. And Morgan said he had a really cool example.
All right, Hipyo, I've got a surprise for you.
I love surprises sometimes.
There's a self-print version. You told me you liked blue, so.
Whoa.
So this is in 4 colors of ABS, and it's kind of modeled after Hokusai's Under the Wave, but.
Wow.
But this led me to a very important question that philosophers have been pondering for all of time.
Which one is thockier? Why do I want to do that so much? Oh, interesting. This is really clacky. It's like a little bit thinner, but like there's more of a, okay, versus this. Interesting. It's a little bit deeper, but also like, it's quite an interesting sound difference. The blue one's also just like visually so cool.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can just pop.
Now, that did have me wondering, how the heck do you clean this thing?
Oh, this you could probably just take everything apart, put it in the ultrasonic cleaner, right?
You wouldn't want to put this in the ultrasonic probably. Well, this would be fine, it's ABS. You wouldn't want to put PLA in ultrasonic cleaner. This, you can pull the keys out and just compressed air in the key wells. It blows out any debris that can interfere with the mechanism or the sensing.
But now that we've got this bad boy dialed into my fingers, it's time to learn how to type on it.
You're starting from scratch. You're gonna go on monkey type or Keyber, and you're just gonna learn where the letters are. And for the most part, they're still in the same places as they are on QWERTY. The only things that move are those diagonal reaches, because they don't exist on here. And they move to inward motions of the middle and ring fingers. So that's really why you're gonna be going to Keyber or monkey type to practice, everything's gonna be fine.
Now, this might look like something from an alien dimension, but it's actually the layout of the keyboard, and it makes a bit more sense once you think about it.
This is the cheat sheet.
I thought, oof.
Yeah. As much as I love blank keycaps, everybody needs a reference. This is kind of a throwback to the old data hand. It included these printed on the cases of the keyboards. A lot of extra space and kind of ugly. This is stylistically in that same vein. Apologize for the ugliness, but it does convey all the information. It's basically QWERTY, and they're mapped in a way that's supposed to feel intuitive spatially.
Now, at first, I definitely needed a second to figure out which key was which.
So your right thumb, move it this way to space. Like I'm going in the direction of a space. That's my space. Backspace, opposite direction.
That's the blue layer?
That's the blue layer.
Okay.
Control, Alt.
But I decided I was ready to try a typing test, which is like the equivalent of shoving a kid down a hill on a bike with no training wheels.
This is gonna be my first typing test, so don't hate on me, all right, guys? 3 words a minute would be pretty crazy. I just have to look at everything because it's like, it is kind of natural, but it's also so unnatural at the same time.
Boom. First word!
Let's go. Long is an easy word to type because that's like all on the same. 4. We're pumping numbers. Like 4 words per minute happened. I accidentally found the trackball.
Oh yeah, you did. There is a trackball built into each hand. I don't know if anyone noticed that.
Oh yeah, how did I forget about the trackballs? Now, I'm not and will never be a mouse review channel, but I do think that these are very cool options that are added to this keyboard. With the goal being to reduce all extra movements, having a mouse right there when you need it means that you can use this keyboard as a full keyboard and mouse setup for some tasks.
Okay, and then to click, how do I click?
You'll be using the left finger south keys. So index finger south is click there, I think. Once you get over the initial sensation of, oh, okay, this feels interesting, this feels a little weird, that QWERTY muscle memory that you have will start to come back into play.
So as I was waiting for that QWERTY muscle memory to come back into play, it was time for me to start some of my own typing training.
Okay, so I just want to test to see how easy it is to learn on this thing without the pressure of Morgan being around. So I'm just gonna run a typing test. We're gonna try our best. 1 word per minute. Let's try again. 5 words per minute. We're gonna need to run some more tests. And learning to type on this thing is like learning to type on a new keyboard completely. It doesn't just feel like a different layout because you're teaching your fingers to move in ways that they're not typically used to moving. But holy cow, does it tingle your brain. In order to learn this thing, I've got my layouts right here, and then I've got the board, and then I'm typing, looking up. 1 letter, looking up.
Now with learning any new layout or keyboard, you're gonna run into some problems, but I felt like I was running into one problem just a bit too often. And it's that my fingers were a little bit too strong.
I tried adjusting this thing, I've tried tweaking it, but no matter what I do, I accidentally press keys. I'm sure that's a muscle memory that I could get over, but that's my 15 minutes for today. That's fine, I'll come back tomorrow. I'll give it another shot because I can't just give up that easily.
Now, after a few more typing tests, things were starting to get a little bit better, but I was still running into the same problem. And it's no secret that this thing does have a couple week-long learning curve, but a lot of that does involve tweaking this thing to fit your hand perfectly.
I think what I'm learning is that in order to try this, you have to be really invested in your health. Like, you really need a reason to learn this thing.
And before I committed myself to the rest of the week of trying this thing every single day, I wanted to see what could be in the future for someone that was dedicated enough to learn this. Because if it works great as a keyboard and it means that you aren't hurt less, then that's really great for you.
So now I want to see how fast the expert can type on it. Also known as the guy that made the things. Obviously he's going to be able to type on them at least decently, right?
Yeah, I'm not at my home workstation. We've set this up crudely here, but I'm happy to give it a go.
That's his way of saying that it's still going to be pretty good. Dang. It's so smooth compared to 81 though.
Yeah, my accuracy's pretty bad here. Get your keyboard below your desk. Get a keyboard tray. Use arms to mount your keyboard.
I had to make it as challenging for you as it was for me, at least somehow. Well, there you have it. It's possible to type on this thing.
Now, what Morgan said there is actually really important. He said, get your keyboard below your desk. And that could actually be why I'm hitting so many keys on accident, because maybe I have too much leverage or height on them. But as I said before, it just kind of doesn't work for my setup. But if you were someone that was committed to this keyboard, then you would have to tweak your setup and adjust a lot of things for it. But it was time for my final day of typing.
So it's been a few days. I've been trying to learn these the best I can, and let's just do another 15 minutes of solid typing training. 7 words per minute? I'm making clear improvements here. Like, it's starting to feel a bit smoother to type on. And I know 7 words per minute is still nowhere near what you need to type like a full essay or go back to work, but within a few days, it's starting to click. No pun intended.
Now, Morgan was right. As I started to practice, the muscle memory for QWERTY did kind of start to click in. Now, it was still painfully slow.
9 words per minute. It's clicking. It's clicking.
And while I didn't have the best ergonomic setup and the learning curve was really steep, it did start to feel a little bit genuinely fun. And yeah, this tool is incredibly niche and not for everyone. But ultimately with ergonomic keyboards, it's not supposed to be for everyone.
10. We hit 10 words per minute. We did it, boys. We are a typist. It's confirmed. I feel so ergonomic. I'm the best.